We use machines every day. 99% of those machines are made by some company, be it multinational conglomerates or your local machinist. Some we can easily identify, like a smartphone or computer you're viewing this video through. But there are many more machines that we don't even think about. One such everyday machine is a zipper. Welcome to Unsung Corporation, and let's dive through the fascinating history of zippers. For many of us, zippers are the first machines we learn to manipulate. Throughout our life, zippers show up in our pants, jackets, bags, pencil cases, and in many other places. But this ubiquity hides considerable human will, effort, and time it took to come to prominence. Not only have zippers changed the way we fasten, but also the way we convey our emotions. When someone annoyingly blabbers on, we tell them to zip it up. But when we see slow zipping action in movies, we perceive it to be cool. Through this presentation, I hope to impress upon you that necessity is not always the mother of all inventions, and not all inventions are inevitable. In the story of Zipper, we will see characters who have dedicated their life working on products that showed no real promise. Yet, work they did, and how these efforts bore fruit to a cultural icon that it is today. Like any invention, there may have been many who might have conceptualized the zipper idea, but only those who have left their mark one way or the other gets discussed. As such, the story of zipper starts in 1851. Inventor of modern-day sewing machine, Elias Howe, patented his idea automatic continuous clothing closure. Here, he imagines a sliding fastener that closes upon moving it from one end to the other. Since he did not develop this idea any further, Howe is usually not credited when discussing zipper tech. It would take 4 decades since Howe. The earliest character in the development of modern-day zipper was Whitcomb L. Judson. Judson was a mechanical engineer, ex-Union Army soldier, and a traveling salesman. During the 1880s, he attempted to develop a streetcar run on compressed air. Having run practical lines for a few months on Chicago streets, the idea proved to be a failure. On August 29, 1893, Judson is granted a patent for clasp locker for shoes. In the patent, Judson explains his invention to be made up of a fastening guide bringing together elements called clasps to securely close two sides. This is similar to the modern-day slide bringing together the zipper teeth. Having followed and impressed by Judson's pneumatic streetcar works, Judson's then boss and friend Harry Earl started the Universal Fastener Company along with Judson in 1893. It is important to note that during the company's birth, United States was in decades-long depression that started in 1873. To add to this existing challenge, neither Judson nor Earl had any sales plan, and Judson had yet to develop a single prototype. But both were serious in their attempts to make this concept workable and profitable. If we want to try and understand their motivation, it is important to take a closer look at the environment they were in. First and foremost, both Whitcomb Judson and Harry Earl were selling farm and industrial equipments in Minnesota. During the Panic of 1893 that started in May of that year, 15,000 companies went out of business, and with unemployment hitting double digits. So, it is possible that their sales declined significantly enough to justify such a Hail Mary attempt. Judson's obsession over inventions can be accounted for if we assume he was inspired by his historical peers, like the great Graham Bell and Thomas Edison, with their innovations in telephone in 1876 and light bulb in 1878, respectively. Whatever their motivation may have been, Judson and Earl would spend the rest of 1890s unsuccessfully convincing new customers, with only notable sales being 20 zippers to post office department. By 1901, their initial investors abandoned the company due to lack of any success, leaving Earl with ineffective machineries as the only asset. Here, we see the next major character in zipper story development join the company, Lewis Walker. Affectionately called the Colonel from his rank in Pennsylvania State Guard, Lewis Walker was a respectable lawyer who joins the company in late 1890s as an investor. In 1904, the Colonel takes financial control of the company from Harry Earl and renames it to Automatic Hook and Eye Company, something Earl would express regret during his penniless final years. Judson would make his final contribution in 1904 with minor tweaks and introducing cloth to the side of the fastener clasp for easier stitching, idea that still exists today. Based on this idea, security was introduced in 1905 but was unsuccessful due to its high cost and reliability problems. But a notable effect of security was the introduction of slide fastener to the international market. During his final years, Earl toured Europe trying to convince dressmakers of France, Germany, United Kingdom to try security. Though his efforts saw no success, innovators in those countries took notice of the technology and would go on to establish local competitors in the coming decades. In 1906, Whitcomb Judson and Harry Earl would retire from the company. By the time of his death in 1909, Judson was still prominently known for his pneumatic streetcar. 1906 sees another major character join the automatic hook and eye company, Gideon Sunbach. Sunbach was an educated and professionally trained electrical engineer who recently quit working at Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company due to work dissatisfaction. He was persuaded by Automatic Hook and Eye Company's chief engineer, a compatriot, and future father-in-law, Peter Aronson. It is arguable that while Sunbach joined this fledgling company due to his initial interest in their fastener technology, what truly kept him working long-term was his love for Elvira Aronson, daughter of the company's chief engineer. For the company, Sunbach brought a more pragmatic thinking in addressing the fastener problem. Judson was, as shown from his streetcar development days, more interested in the mechanical ingenuity than practicality. So when Sunbach joined the company, he focused on simplifying the design, ironing out the reliability issues with production. In 1908, Planko fastener was released based on new patents filed by Sunbach. Unfortunately for the company, Planko was only profitable for just 6 months, and it would have to wait another decade before a better product is developed. In the meanwhile, they had to rely on aggressive salesmen to keep the company afloat. In early 1910s, Gideon Sunbach's wife Elvira Aronson passes away. The sadness causes Sunbach to wholly dedicate himself to solving the slide fastener problems. Automatic Hook and Eye Company's R&D budget increases fivefold thereafter. By 1917, Sunbach completely redesigns the fastener, removing all the hooks and eyes and introducing scoops similar to the teats that we know and see today. This came to be known as hookless fastener number 2. To deal with the increasing requirement for reliability and tolerance, Sunbach switched from using steel to German silver, which is a nickel-copper-zinc alloy. Additionally, German silver's corrosive resistance meant garments can finally be washed with the zipper rather than having to remove it every time, something we don't think about today. Along with new designs and patents, the Colonel dissolves the Automatic Hook and Eye Company and starts Hookless Fastener Co. in Midvale, Pennsylvania. With better product in hand, the Colonel involves himself directly in selling the Hookless number 2. His sales strategy was to avoid independent salesmen and approach dressmakers directly. To that end, he sends his 2 sons to New York City Garment District. But Hookless Fastener's 20-cent cost was still too high compared to 5 cents for buttons and snaps. High cost and Colonel's stubbornness for exclusive usage rights prevented the company from acquiring many large customers. Hookless Fastener Corporation saw small successes with money purse and tobacco pouches during World War I that highlighted the fastener's neatness and convenience. In 1922, Hookless Fastener convinced the large B.F. Goodrich Rubber Company to adopt their fastener technology for their new boot called Zipper. This boot introduced Hookless Fastener to the larger world, and the tech would take on the new name Zipper from here onwards. 1920s saw increasing interest in parenting reforms with the release of John B. Watson's Psychological Care of Infant and Child. With a successful product in hand and newly overhauled sales department, Hookless Fastener Company started to advertise the reliability and ease of use of zippers on children's overalls. Along with the movie Bye Bye Buttons, company saw small sales bump and mass media attention. When Judson's 1890s patents started to expire, competitive firms started to show up around the world, from Sunbach-owned Lightning Fastener Company in Canada to Yoshida's San S. Shokai in Japan. But the zipper innovation was still happening in US. With another innovation assisted by DuPont, Hookless Fastener Company developed the world's first plastic zipper. This allowed them to enter women's clothing market by providing colorful, customizable zippers. Along with adoption of zippers by college students of the 1930s and spotlight from Prince Edward of Wales' wardrobe, zipper companies not only avoided going bankrupt, but thrived. In Hookless Fastener's case, they grew to such a degree that the company's stock was split 1 to 250, and company changed its name to Talon. By 1939, both Lewis Walker and Sunbach retired from the company, and Sunbach's Lightning Fastener Company merged with Talon. 1940s were a turning point for the zipper industry and the world. Advent of World War II forced governments around the world to take direct control of their economies and start dictating utilization of resources and existing machineries. As such, zipper manufacturers lost their supply of copper, and then machineries were redirected to make other war-related products like armament parts. In Japan, however, the government allowed for unimpeded production of zippers for use in army clothes. This was primarily because Tadao Yoshida's San S. Shokai Company perfected the aluminum alloy. This allowed them to wean itself off copper while providing a more reliable zipper that met the tough military standards. This would turn out to be quite consequential within the industry, even if nobody knew then, because with the mastery of aluminum alloy, Yoshida's company found a reliable purchaser in Imperial Japanese Army and was able to avoid redirecting his tools for unrelated war products. But Yoshida's eventual international success would suffer a temporary setback when US firebombed Tokyo in 1945. In this attack, San S. Shokai was thoroughly destroyed. Yoshida would establish a new company called YKK in another area with the plentiful profits from San S. Shokai. It would take until 1970s before they were strong enough to push into the largest and most significant zipper market, USA. With heightened demand from post-war economic boom, Talon and other vertically integrated companies, that is, companies that try to make everything from the tools they require to the final product, were unable to keep up. With many of early Sunbach's patents starting to expire, business models shifted away from vertical integrators to few tool makers supplying vast assemblers. This increased competition and lowered price significantly, resulting in Talon losing market share and collapse of their profit margin from 19% to 4%. 1960s saw Talon introduce its final major innovation into the market with the introduction of nylon zippers. Working with DuPont again, nylon was harder to produce, raising the barriers of entry for competitors. With nylon innovation and improvements to their existing metal zipper models, Talon was back to growing its market share again. It was also in 1960s that zipper would become a cultural icon. 1950s Korean War and early 1960s Cuban Missile Crisis kickstarted possibly the greatest cultural movement of 20th century. The anti-establishment counterculture movement of 1960s saw mass adoption of practical clothing and accessories. As such, easy-to-fasten zippers quickly became a favorite. It was also during 60s that saw the sexual revolution. This shift in cultural attitude was prominently reflected in mass media. In this case, zippers' ease in unfastening was used as an erotic trope to hint at careless, consequence-free sex. This iconic status was reflected in Andy Warhol designed Rolling Stone cover Sticky Finger and in 1969 Time magazine cover. Talon rode these trends to dominate the market with 70% market share by early 1970s. Unfortunately, this would be the last time that they dominate the market as well. For we see the international rise of Japan's YKK clearly in 1970s. While YKK entered the American market in 1930s, negative connotation of Japan during and immediately after the World War II dented their efforts. In 1970s, with most Asian and South American markets dominated, YKK made full effort to push into US market. Their rise within US was rapid, fueled both by their cheap prices and higher quality. By year 1980, YKK overtook Talon to become the largest zipper manufacturer in US and the world, a dominance that still lasts today. Opening of Asian markets in post-Soviet 1990s meant vast cheap labor for the world. This saw large-scale relocation of garment factories into Asia. As such, many zipper companies were forced to move their production. Either they moved, like Talon, abandoning its Medville factory for China, or simply disappeared. Currently, with many garment factories being located in Asia, local zipper manufacturers have rose to challenge the incumbents. For example, SPS zippers in China supplying for brands like Nike, Adidas, and Samsonite. But this does not mean American or European companies have disappeared. Here, we note few luxury brands like Tom Ford have turned to local European manufacturers like Riri or Rakagni. Though Louis Vuitton still uses custom YKK zippers, a testament to their care and quality. As of today, YKK is the largest zipper manufacturer in the world, supplying about 50% of all zippers. But YKK didn't dominate the last 50 years by sitting on their laurels. They have made moves over many decades to retain their R&D and manufacturing talents while aggressively challenging the up-and-comers. In the next video, I will highlight the birth and business of YKK and why they have not only been able to dominate the zipper industry for multiple decades, but also likely to remain at the top for the foreseeable future. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to learn more of other industries and unsung corporations around us. See you soon.